I'm the biodiversity officer, one of the biodiversity officers for Neath Talbot Council. Oh, hang on. Sorry. And I'm going to be heading up this meeting today. So I also just want to introduce Rose, who some of you already know. She is the ecologist for the council and has organised all of this. So thank you, Rose. So this is obviously the first NPT for Nature meeting. So the idea of the group is just for us to engage with the local community and to provide some advice and guidance for actions that you guys could take to help your local nature. So we hope it'll be really useful. Okay, so to start off, I just wanted to give a little bit of an introduction to the Local Nature Partnership and who we are. So the LNP Cymru project is a Welsh Government project that aims to build a nature recovery network across Wales. So this is achieved by creating local partnerships of environmental groups, businesses, communities, public bodies and citizens in an area that are responsible for carrying out practical action and then strategic planning as well to protect and improve their local environment. So we have over 60 members in the Neath Talbot Partnership at the moment, including local experts, community groups, charities and the local authority. So some of the members are here tonight, including our chair, Charles, and vice chair, Catherine. So if you have any questions for them, I'm sure they won't mind if you pop them in the chat. So NPT for Nature is a new subgroup of the LNP. So we wanted to create a space which is aimed at engaging with as many local people as possible. And we hope it'll be really useful for the people who, like yourselves, who are trying to do their best for nature in NPT. So at this point, we'd like to know a little bit about you too. So it'd be great if you guys could introduce yourselves in the chat and tell us a little bit about yourselves. So our main objective in the NPT Nature Partnership is to further the conservation, awareness and enhancement of nature in Neath Talbot. In order to do this, the NPT Partnership has 8 main aims for the county. So these are to protect existing habitats, to restore former habitat and create new habitat, to halt the loss of biodiversity in Neath Talbot, to create awareness of the importance of our local wildlife, to educate people about the importance of habitats, to conserve the flora and fauna they support, to encourage local people to get involved in protecting and enjoying their local biodiversity, to increase and share the knowledge held about particular species and sites, to influence activities to be more sensitive to the local biodiversity needs, and finally to advise on appropriate action for conservation in Neath Talbot. Okay, so to achieve these aims, there's a lot that the LNP does in the area. So this includes things like developing plans and policies, such as the State of Nature and Nature Recovery Action Plan, which is due to be published soon. The partnership is also great for networking and best practice sharing, with lots of experts from different fields being able to share their knowledge with other members. A lot of practical conservation projects are also carried out within the partnership, and there's a small pot of funding available to help other groups carry out projects in the area as well. The partnership is also responsible for reporting data to the local record centre. So this includes reporting sightings of species in their locations, which is really important for population studies and identifying important areas for species to inform conservation efforts. Education and awareness raising is also a key element of the partnership, which is obviously one of the main reasons why we set up this group. And lastly, the partnership provides advice to the local authority, external bodies and members of the public as well. Sorry, I'm just going to have a little drink. I'm not used to talking for so long. So what exactly are we protecting? I'm sure that you'll all know that despite its heavy industrial history, NPT has some really fantastic habitats and wildlife. So we have 11 main habitat types in the county that support some incredible wildlife, including 236 different priority species. So some of these habitats and species are of national and international importance, including 19 sites of special scientific interest, which are home to rare species such as the Deptford pink, which is the small pink flower on the top right-hand corner of your screen, as well as shrill carder and fen raft spider, which is actually the largest species of spider in the UK. We also have Wales's only population of the blue ground beetle, which is something to shout about, as well as a nationally important breeding population of lapwing. And NPT is the last stronghold for breeding honey buzzards in Wales as well. So yeah, I mean, I could keep going, but you get the point. We've got some really wonderful habitats and wildlife in NPT that we really need to look after. So we thought it would be a good idea to do a little bit of a feature on each of the main habitats that we have in NPT, just to give you all a bit of a better idea of what we're working to conserve. So for this session, I'm going to hand over to Rose, who's going to talk a little bit about our woodland habitats in NPT.
Thanks, Chloe. So I won't keep you for very long. I'll hand back over. But yeah, just to give you a bit of an introduction to me, I know Chloe already did, but my name's Rose. I'm one of the ecologists for Neath Talbot Council, and I act as the secretary for the LNP. And one of the things we've been doing over the last few years, we've been working really hard as a partnership to gather together all the data on habitats and species in Neath Talbot to help us try and make an informed assessment on the state of nature in NPT. Lots of you may have seen the State of Nature of Wales document, which was had quite a few worrying statistics in it. But we've decided we thought it would be a good idea to do a similar thing for Neath Talbot. So this is going to be available soon as a State of Nature document combined with an action plan, which will have ideas for necessary action then to help protect, conserve and restore our nature. And through this, we looked at all the different broad habitat types, and woodland was one of the first ones. So, and this one's actually quite a good news story. So it's one of the best, preserved habitats that we have in NPT. So just a few facts that we came up with from the course of our research. So 40% of Neath Talbot is actually woodland. It's one of the most wooded counties in Wales. A lot of that is conifer plantation, but there is still a lot of ancient broadleaf woodland remaining, and you can see that on the map that I'm going to show you shortly. There are 6 main types of woodland: oak, riparian corridors, so alongside rivers, wet and alder willow, scrub, see plantation, and hedgerow as well. We've got some amazing examples of ancient hedgerows. And woodland areas provide habitat for almost 40% of our priority species. We've got a list of priority species that we think are important for NPT, whether they're endangered or they're a key species for the county. And almost 40% of those can be found in woodland. And the good news is that most of the woodland in Neath Talbot is in relatively good condition. So the connectivity, diversity and extent of the woodland hasn't deteriorated significantly in the last 20 years. That's a difficult word to say. So as we mentioned, much of the woodland in NPT is conifer plantation, well, a big proportion of it. And it has got its reputation as being quite barren, but it does have some value for biodiversity. So, for example, many species of birds have benefited from the conifer plantations. So clear-felled, pre-thicket areas are really famous for providing habitat for species such as tree pipits and nightjars. And then mature conifer forests, we've got breeding populations of crossbills, siskins, and even honey buzzard, which is a very rare bird. And then the native broadleaved woodlands, they live up to their reputation. They've got really rich ground flora, important habitats for woodland mammals, birds and invertebrates. And one notable example here is we had a recent discovery in the last few years of a population of blue ground beetle in Maesbellin Woods and around it. It was actually found in someone's garden shed, I think. So Neath Talbot also contains areas of temperate rainforest as well, and beautiful waterfalls and ravines, and nationally important assemblages then of bryophytes, so of mosses, liverworts, hornworts. So we've got some really good important woodland species in East Talbot. So part of the process of producing the State of Nature document, we got an up-to-date habitat map done of the county. This is just the woodland habitats. So you can see there is a really good coverage of woodland. The sort of paler green is the conifer plantations, but you can see there's quite a lot of dark green going up the valleys as well. So there's really good connectivity of woodland across the county. So we're really happy to say that the state of nature of woodland in East Talbot is actually quite good. It's not the same story for all habitats, unfortunately. We're going to be revisiting these in future meetings and looking at what we can do to help as well. So at this point, I just wanted to touch on one of the key things that we're hoping that this group will help with. You're obviously all coming from your local communities, and you're obviously keen to help nature in your community. So we wanted to raise a few of these sort of key things that are arising in the conservation community at the moment. You can be the person that then goes out to your community and helps spread the word. These are all really important issues. So basically, there's a lot of press and public interest, I'm sure you've all heard, about tree planting at the moment. We're all, worried about climate change, trying to find the ways that we can help. Lots of governments are trying to, to tree planting targets and things, all to help tackle the climate crisis, which is obviously important and we've got to be looking for ways to tackle the climate crisis. But we do need to look at tree planting very, very carefully and holistically. And in the wrong place, tree planting can be quite devastating. So just to touch on the fact that woodland is not the only carbon sink. Other habitats are really important. That's the species-rich grasslands. Of course, the peat bogs. We've got lots of peat bogs in East Talbot. They're really important carbon sinks as well. A tree planted in the wrong place on one of those habitats can actually do a lot more harm than good. And it all requires really careful consideration. So the other thing is that natural regeneration is much better than planted woodland. So going out with your plastic tubes and saplings and things, it's much better to just see what comes back on its own. But this is a really good example down here of the Nestle's trees pulled up to save flowers. That was obviously someone had come along in the winter and thought, we need to do something to tackle the climate crisis. Let's cover this hillside in trees. There is quite a striking picture of it all covered in plastic tubes and little trees. And they actually had to go along then and pull them all up when conservation's noticed that they planted all over a really, really important wildflower meadow, which was full of betony and orchids, which obviously has its own value for carbon. So it's just something to consider. And there are 10 golden rules to help you do tree planting well. So if this is something that you did want to do, these are the golden rules for it. So I won't read them all out. They'll be there, and also we will send around this presentation afterwards as well, so you can revisit these slides. But one of the key ones is selecting the right area, and the key this has come from research that's come out of Kew. One of the main things they've said is that ultimately the best area for planting trees is previously forested land, so places that were forest and they've become degraded for whatever reason. There's also there's a link here which you'll be able to click on in the slides that we send around afterwards, which the RSPB produced, which is all about how nature should be at the heart of woodland expansion. So I'll just finish my little segment. I just wanted to show you this really good video, which is from the NEP project, so the rewilding project, all about how you can establish trees in a more natural way. So hopefully this is going to work. It might lag for some people, but the link will be on the slides going around. So. Hopefully most people could see that. I think some of Chloe couldn't see it, but Sarah could, so hopefully most people could. But yeah, the link is there anyway if you need to see it later. And that's, I'll hand back to Chloe.
Thank you. Right. Oh no, it's not letting me take control. Hang on. Oh no.
I take control again and then you take it back.
Oh yeah, is it taking it off you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not letting me.
Okay, try taking it back.
Technical issues.
Try going back one slide, Chloe, and then back again.
Yeah, it's just saying sync to presenter. Oh, we were so excited about this new PowerPoint live share. We're like, oh, this is going to be really easy. There's always got to be technical issues, isn't there? I don't know whether it's one of those things where I'm going to have to leave and come back in, but that's going to make it awkward, isn't it? Should I try that?
Yeah,
hang on.
good.
All right, I'll be back in a sec.
I'll start for Chloe's bit anyway. So basically, we're going into the community action for nature now. This is the whole idea of this group, is that we're hopefully going to give you some ideas or inspire and give you some advice to help concerned individuals and groups like yourselves to take action for nature in East Port Talbot. So obviously community action is a really vital component of conservation, and policy and legislation is really important. It's great for protecting species and habitats from damage, but we do need boots on the ground to actually be doing the practical conservation work and raising awareness. So this is where you guys come in. So
Sorry.
You're back. Have you got control now?
I've got control now, it's working.
Okay. I got partway through, I'm like 3 paragraphs down.
Okay, sorry. Right, well, I might as well pick up where you left off. Yeah, so we are hoping to be able to offer some activities and volunteering opportunities for the group in the future when code restrictions allow. But for now, we're just going to focus on sharing some opportunities and giving advice if you guys want to organise any activities with your own groups. So following on from that, we've put together some ideas for events and activities that you could do over the next few months. So there's not all that much left of January now, but I thought it'd be worth mentioning the RSPB Big Garden Bird Watch is coming up at the end of the month. So it's really easy to get involved. You can just sign up on their website. All you have to do is count the birds that you see in your garden, or if you don't have a garden, you can do it from your balcony or in your local park, and you just do it for an hour. So they've got loads of resources on their website to help you with a garden bird ID guide that you can download as well. So yeah, I'd really encourage you to get involved with it if you can. It provides really, really important population data as well, that gives us an idea of sort of how the different garden species that we see every day are doing around the country. So moving into February, the World Wetlands Day is on the 2nd of February, and the theme for this year is a call to take action for wetlands. So NPT has some really, really important wetland habitats. As Rose said earlier, we've got a lot of peat bog, and we're currently running the Lost Peatlands project, which covers sites both in NPT and Rhondda Cynon Taf as well, to restore some of our damaged peatlands. I think they're aiming to restore about 250 hectares in total, so it's a really significant amount. So there will be volunteering and training events coming up for that. So you can check out their website that has loads of information on about the project and how you can get involved for anyone interested. But one activity that you can definitely do in February is to go on a toad patrol. So a few different areas in East Port Talbot are hotspots for toad crossings. So it's areas where toads cross the road during their annual migration back to their breeding ponds. So it's not necessarily for the faint of heart. Basically, you have to go out on sort of cold, wet evenings and hunt for toads with a with a pond net. But Bryn Coch Environment Group have been running tow patrols for a while. So if you want to get involved, they'd be a really good place to start. Some of their members are actually here tonight. So if anybody from the from Bryn Coch Environment Group would like to add anything or just tell us a bit about the experience, feel free to jump in. But you don't have to do it now.
Hi there. My name is Lynn John. I've been a member of Bryn Coch Environment Group since 2006 when it was formed, and since then we've done a toad patrol every year. We had amazing numbers of toads the first year. It was nearly 1,000 toads that we rescued, but unfortunately each year the numbers have declined. We're really not sure why that is, but if anybody feels they want to come out and help us, they can get in touch with us on our Facebook group. As Chloe said, it's not for the faint-hearted, but it's great fun, and it's very popular with the families, and the children love it, and everybody goes home feeling they've done a good job. But it's basically going out after dark when it's either very damp or wet, mild conditions, not too cold, with a bucket and a torch, gloves, and we pick up the toads off the local roads because the main danger is roadkill, and we've got a very large pond close by, so we take them as close as we can for them to get into the breeding pond, and hopefully they'll be successful in their breeding.
The volunteers are met and shown the ropes. No, got it.
Thank you, that's great. Yeah, my sister lives in Bryn Coch, so I'm gonna have to drag her out one night, I think. Yeah, so another good thing to do in February is February is a great time to put up bird boxes. Most species will be prospecting nest sites by then, although some will probably start earlier with the mild winter that we've been having, although thankfully it has gotten a bit colder recently. So you can make your own bird box if you like a bit of DIY, but there's also some lovely ones that you can buy. So also if you already have a nest box in the garden, it's really important to clean them out before nesting season kicks off. So February is a good time to do this as well. Old nesting material can contain sort of nasty bacteria and parasites, so giving boxes a good clean out before the nesting season gives any nesting birds the best chance of success. It's really easy to do. You literally just need to take the box down and clean it out with a sponge or a cloth and some boiling water, and then just leave it to dry, and then pop it back up where it was. So another thing that's happening in February is Plant Life are running absolutely loads of webinars throughout the entire February on a whole range of topics. So if you want to improve some of your plant ID skills, or maybe learn a bit about meadow management or different survey techniques, or even soil health, there are some really interesting talks happening. Some of the talks that I think sound really interesting are one about how we can use storytelling in conservation, and the importance of spending time in nature. So there's something for everyone. I definitely recommend having a look on there. They're all free, but they do ask for a donation to the organisation. So moving into March, World Wildlife Day is on the 3rd of March, and the theme this year is recovering key species for ecosystem restoration. So the aim of this event is to draw attention to some of the most critically endangered species, and to encourage discussions about how we can work to save them. So it is an online event this year, but they are asking people to get involved by getting to know the threatened species in your area, and how you can how you and your community can help conserve them or support ongoing conservation efforts. So we have a lot of species that we're working to conserve in NPT. Our uplands and clearfeld plantation areas, for example, support nightjar populations, which is a species of conservation concern. We're also working to improve our management of our grassland areas to encourage floral diversity, such as some, rare species of orchids and things. So we also have a conservation grazing scheme at the moment on Ross Common to improve the habitat quality of the marshy grassland that supports an important population of Mars fritillary butterflies. So these feed on the devil's bit scabious that grow in the common. NPT is home to significant bat populations as well, with Margam Castle being one of the most important sites for bats in the UK. So the most recent data shows that the castle is home to 14 out of the 18-ish species of bat that are found in the UK. So yeah, this is just some of the work that's going on in NPT. We're always looking for enthusiastic people to get involved as well. So you guys have already taken the first step into getting involved in local conservation by joining this group. So hopefully we'll be able to get out and do some practical conservation work soon. So another fun activity for March is to go on an otter sign hunt. So otters have made a comeback since the 70s, although they are now showing worrying signs of decline again, unfortunately. So they're currently found on all the main rivers in Neath, but unfortunately for us, they are very elusive. So you can count yourself very lucky if you ever actually get to see one. But what you can do is go out and look for signs of otters. So March is a really good time to do this because the rivers are starting to recede and the vegetation isn't too overgrown, which leaves behind lots of nice muddy areas to spot tracks and things in. So there are 4 main things to look out for with otters. First, there are the tracks, which are quite distinctive. So otters have quite a large pad, and you can see all 5 toes in the track, and the toes are sort of teardrop shaped as well. The next thing to look out for is otter dung or spraints. So these are often found in quite prominent places like a rocky outcrop or a fallen tree, as these are used by otters to mark their territories. So the smell of otter spraints are very distinctive. They mostly eat fish, so as you can imagine, they smell quite fishy. But apparently it's not an unpleasant smell. Some people say it smells a bit like jasmine tea. I can't confirm that because I've never smelled one. But they're also sort of black or dark grey in colour with lots of bones in as well. So you might be able to also spot some feeding remains left after they finished a meal. So depending on where you are, you might spot a crab shell or some discarded bones of a fish at the water's edge, maybe. And then lastly, if there are grassy banks or bare mud along the edge of the river, you might be able to find an otter slide, which, as the name suggests, is just a spot on the bank where they frequently use to slide into the water. Yeah, so if you are out on a walk in March along a river, definitely keep an eye out for otter signs. It's a fun little thing to do. And then at the end of March and moving into April is Wales Outdoor Learning Week. So this is an NRW initiative, which is mostly aimed at getting kids out of the classroom and into nature. So if you work in a school or have kids in a school, it might be an idea to see if there's anything planned. There's quite a few resources on the website with ideas for lessons or topics that you could use. But even if you aren't in a school or involved, there's no reason you can't take part. Any excuse to get outside and learn about nature is a good one, in my opinion. So maybe you could have a go at pond dipping locally. The Wildfowl and Wetlands Trust has a really great page on their site about how to do this safely and responsibly. So I popped the link for that at the bottom of the slide. You could also maybe take the opportunity to improve on your ID skills. So one thing I'm trying to work on at the moment is my birdsong ID. So there's some really, really great series on YouTube that can help with this. And it's really satisfying when you're out on a walk and you can sort of tune into who's in the trees around you. So that's a nice little thing to do. One thing that I am also definitely going to be doing in the garden this spring is making a bumblebee nest. A lot of our bumblebee species in the UK will nest in sort of old bird boxes or old bird nests. Some just nest in the leaf litter above ground. But one thing you can do is to build them a little house. So it's super straightforward. You literally just need an old bit of hose pipe. Make sure that you poke drainage holes in it. A terracotta pot with something to cover the hole. Some dry straw for some nesting material and a bit of soil to bury the hose pipe on the edges of the pot. Obviously there's more detailed instructions on the links that are on the slide, but it's a nice little activity to help your local bees on a sunny afternoon. Nesting season will also be underway by April. So if you do have a nest in your garden or your local green space, it'd be really great if you could record it with the Nest Record Scheme. So this is a nationwide survey run by the British Trust for Ornithology, which provides really important information about bird breeding populations and any impact that habitat and climate is having on their success. So it's really easy to get involved. They've got all the information that you need on their website, including a handbook and also some resources to make the recording process really straightforward. Recording a nest can also be a really lovely activity, as it means you get to follow the nest from brooding to fledging if you find it in time. And if you're anything like me, then you really start to root for the little family. And then I also just wanted to show you this quickly. This is Nature's calendar for 2022, which is a list of all the nature-related events that are happening throughout the year in the UK. So we'll be going through a lot of these events in each meeting to let you know about them. But I just wanted to draw your attention to this, as we won't be covering every single event. So you might want to do something with your groups for some of them. We'll be emailing the slides after this meeting, so you can have a look if you're interested. And then just before I finish, what would be really great for us is if you could let us know what you would like this group to focus on. So are you here to get involved practically? Do you want to increase your knowledge? Are you looking to find more like-minded people? That sort of thing. So if you could pop any suggestions that you think would be really helpful in the chat, that would be really great. And I'll also pop the link to a survey that we've put together in the chat too. I know Rose has already sent you a couple of emails about the survey, but I'm pushing it again. It'll only take a couple of minutes, so if you could fill that out, that would be really helpful. We're also going to be holding a mailing list for NPT for Nature to notify you of any upcoming events locally. So if you'd be interested in being added to that, then that's also a question on the survey, or otherwise, if Rose, maybe you could pop the question in the chat, and if you want to be on the mailing list, you could just react to it. Just put a thumbs up if you'd like to be involved. Okay, I think that's enough talking from me. I hope this has been interesting. The next meeting will be on the 12th of April, so I hope you'll all want to come along again. I've popped mine and Rose's details on the slide, so please feel free to get in touch with us if you're looking for any ecological advice on a project or have an idea for something you'd like to do in your area. We will stop recording now, and you can all put your cameras and mics back on if you have any questions, and we can have a nice little chat.